Something changed that night. Neither of us fought it. We sat across from each other with silence in our eyes. No anger left between us, no tears left to hide. The room felt unfamiliar, like strangers passing through. Two hearts slowly realizing there was nothing left to do. No one said it's over, but we both knew. It was the night we stopped trying, stopped holding on so tight, stopped pretending love alone could somehow make it right. It was the night we stopped trying, and everything grew still, like we finally reached the moment neither heart could heal. The conversations faded into empty sounds. Every word between us just circled back around. We used to fight for answers, used to chase what mattered, but that night we sat in silence and watched it slowly shatter. We were too tired to save it, too broken to pretend. It was the night we stopped trying and stopped asking each other why, stopped reaching through the distance we could no longer deny. It was the night we stopped trying, and I finally understood. Sometimes love fades quietly before it's fully gone for good. Maybe endings don't arrive with chaos or flames. Maybe they happen softly when no one remains the same. No screaming, no goodbye, just surrender. It was the night we stopped trying, but maybe that's okay, because love shouldn't survive by begging someone to stay. It was the night we stopped trying, and though it broke my heart, it also became the moment we finally fell apart. Something changed that night, and neither of us fought it. You were still beside me, but something in you was already gone. Your eyes stopped holding mine the way they used to do, and every quiet moment started pulling me from you. You smiled, but it felt distant. Your touch felt unfamiliar, like your heart had started leaving before your body disappeared. I tried not to believe it, but I felt it in the air. I felt you leave before you left, they're still around. We still share the same room, still spoke like nothing changed. But every conversation felt colder than the day before. I kept reaching for the version of you I used to know, but every piece I held on to was already letting go. You stayed in front of me, but your heart went somewhere else. I felt you leave before you left, in every distant stare, in every moment I realized you were no longer there. I felt you leave before you left, and I finally knew the hardest kind of goodbye is losing someone slowly in front of you. Maybe endings begin quietly, long before they arrive. Maybe love starts fading while we're still trying to survive. You are still here, but not with me. I felt you leave before you left, but I kept hoping you'd stay. Held on to the smallest signs that you hadn't drifted away. I felt you leave before you left, and now I understand. Sometimes the heart knows first what the mind can't comprehend. You were still beside me, but something in you was already gone. We used to fill the room with words. Now silence says everything. There was a time we stayed awake, talking through the night. Every thought, every feeling felt honest and alive. But somewhere in the distance, the conversations changed, and every word between us started feeling strange. We stopped saying what mattered, and silence took its place. That's when love turned into silence, when nothing felt the same, when we stopped reaching for each other and forgot how to explain. That's when love turned into silence, and I watched us slowly fade into two people sharing space, but no longer feeling safe. We answered without listening, spoke without meaning much. The warmth inside our voices lost its human touch. I kept waiting for a moment to bring us back again, but every quiet evening only deepened what had been. We weren't screaming anymore, and somehow that hurt hearts begin to drift, maybe it becomes the distance no one knows how to fix. No fighting, no words, just quiet. That's when set both our hearts free. We used to fill the room with words. Now silence says everything. We weren't who we used to be, but we hadn't let go yet. I remember how we looked in those final days, still standing side by side while drifting separate ways. We laughed a little softer, we touched without the spark, trying to keep alive something already dark. We kept pretending nothing changed, while everything had. The last version of us was fragile, two hearts trying to survive on memories. The last version of us still looked like love somehow, but underneath the surface we were breaking down. The silence felt heavier than any fight before, and every passing evening closed another door. We stopped dreaming together, stopped saying what we feel, holding on to routines long after love disappeared. We stayed because it was familiar, not because it still felt right. The last version of us couldn't carry what we were. Every word became distant, every feeling blurred. The last version of us was already saying goodbye, even while we sat together, trying not to cry. Maybe every love story has a final form, a quiet fading shadow of what once felt warm. We were still us, just not the same. The last version of us taught me how endings feel, but used to be. We weren't who we used to be, but we hadn't let go yet. I kept staying even after I was gone inside. I gave you every quiet piece I didn't know I had. Held together broken moments, trying not to collapse. Every time you drifted further, I moved closer instead, hoping love could survive on the things we never said. I thought if I stayed long enough, something would come back to life. I stayed until there was nothing left of me, no strength inside my heart, no parts still free. I stayed until there was nothing, and now I understand. Love shouldn't leave you empty just to make someone stay. Stopped feeling connected, but I refuse to see how much of myself I was slowly losing silently. I carried every silence, every wound we ignored, while you stepped further away from what we were before. Stayed through every warning until I disappeared. I stayed until there was nothing, no fire left in my soul, just memories and echoes of trying to feel whole. I stayed until there was nothing, and it finally became clear. You can't save a love alone, no matter how sincere. Maybe leaving sooner would have hurt less in the end, but I kept loving harder while watching us descend. I kept staying even after I was gone inside. There was no sign, you just slowly disappeared from me. first it felt so small, like nothing really changed. Just quieter conversations and distance in your gaze. You still stood beside me, still whispered my name, but something underneath it all didn't feel the same. I didn't see it happening until you were already gone. You drifted without warning, like a tide pulling away, slow enough I didn't notice until love began to fade. You drifted without warning, and I couldn't stop the fall, watching us become strangers without meaning to it all. We stopped sharing pieces of the things inside our minds, started living separate lives, hidden in the same night. I kept trying to hold on to what we used to be, but every moment after that felt further out of reach. You left in quiet stages, one silence at a time. You drifted without warning, without saying goodbye, without a final reason, without a final fight. You drifted without warning, and now I finally know. Sometimes people leave your heart long before they go. Maybe the saddest endings aren't the loudest ones. Maybe they happen softly until there's nothing left to hold. You were still here, but already fading. You drifted without warning, but I can see it now. All the little moments we stopped figuring out. You drifted without warning, and though it hurt to lose, I'm learning not every love is meant to make it through. There was no sign, you just slowly disappeared from me. It didn't disappear in chaos. We lost it in the quiet. There were no shattered moments, no screaming in the dark, just smaller conversations and colder beating hearts. We stopped asking questions, stopped saying what we feared, and little by little, love disappeared. Not every ending sounds like breaking. Some sound like silence. We lost it in the quiet, in the space spaces in between, and every word unspoken, and every unfinished dream. We lost it in the quiet, and I didn't realize love was slowly fading right before my eyes. We still share the same nights, still move through the same room, but everything between us felt heavier too soon. The warmth became familiar, but no longer alive, like we were only surviving instead of feeling inside. We kept waiting for things to change while watching them fade. We lost it in the quiet without knowing when it began, like two hearts drifting slowly without understanding. We lost it in the quiet, and now it's clear to me. Sometimes love doesn't collapse, it slowly leaves. Maybe silence can destroy what anger never could, because distance grows softly before it's understood. No loud goodbye, just stop signs. Oh, we lost it in the quiet, but I've stopped asking why. Some love stories don't explode, they slowly die. We lost it in the quiet, and though it still hurts sometimes, I'm learning how to leave behind what was already fading inside. It didn't disappear in chaos, we lost it in the quiet. I remember the feeling before I understood the reason. It started like any morning, nothing looked out of place, but something in the silence felt impossible to face. Your voice sounded distant, your eyes looked away, and suddenly the warmth between us didn't feel the same. I couldn't explain it then, but my heart already knew. It was the day it didn't feel right, the day something changed, when love stopped feeling certain and everything felt strange. It was the day it didn't feel right, and I felt it deep inside, the beginning of a distance we could no longer hide. We still went through the motions, still laughed once or twice, but every little moment felt thinner than before. I kept searching for comfort in the way you held my hand, but even your touch felt harder to understand. Some endings begin quietly, long before goodbye. It was the day it didn't feel right, when silence filled the air, when I started noticing you weren't really there. It was the day it didn't feel right, and I wish I could forget the exact moment my heart started drowning in regret. Maybe intuition whispers before truth fully arrives. Maybe hearts can sense the ending before love truly dies. Nothing happened loudly, but everything changed. It was the day it didn't feel right, and now I understand. Some love stories begin fading without either person planning. It was the day it didn't feel right, and though it hurt to know, the quiet feeling in my chest was the start of letting go. I remember the feeling before I understood the reason. You didn't leave all at once. I watched it happen slowly. You stopped reaching for my hand without explaining why. Started looking through me with distant, tired eyes. We still shared the same silence, still slept side by side, but every little moment felt like watching love die. I kept hoping you'd come back while you drifted away. I watched you let me go without saying the words, without slamming doors or making it hurt louder. I watched you let me go, and it slowly broke my heart, because losing you quietly was the hardest part. The warmth inside your voice turned unfamiliar somehow, like every promise we once made couldn't reach us now. I kept trying to save us, trying to pull you near, but I was fighting for a future you no longer wanted here. You stopped holding on to me long before goodbye. I watched you let me go, one silence at a time, one day but your heart walked away. I watched you let me go, and now I'm letting go too, of every broken version of what I thought was true. I watched you let me go, and though it hurt to see, I know love shouldn't feel like begging someone not to leave. You didn't leave all at once. I watched it happen slowly. We used to believe in forever. Somewhere along the way, we stopped. There was a time we held on tight to every dream we made, spoke about the future like it could never fade. But slowly the light between us started growing dim, and hope became another thing we couldn't seem to mend. We stopped talking about tomorrow like we already knew. Somewhere we stopped believing in us, stopped believing love alone would somehow be enough. Somewhere we stopped believing, and I felt it in the air, the quiet kind of heartbreak that leaves nothing there. We still move through familiar days, still share the same space, but every promise sounded weaker every time we spoke its name. I try to hold on to hope, try to keep it alive, but belief can only survive if both hearts still try. You stopped looking toward forever, and I stopped asking why. Somewhere we stopped believing, and distance filled the room, like love was slowly vanishing without a sudden wound. Somewhere we stopped believing, and now I finally see relationships don't always break. Sometimes they quietly leave. Maybe faith in love is fragile when silence grows too deep. Maybe hearts stop believing long before they leave. We didn't lose it all at once, just piece by piece. Somewhere we stopped believing, but I still carry what was real. Every moment we once shared, every memory I still feel. Somewhere we stopped believing, and though it's hard to face, I know some love somewhere along